My name is Nkunda Felix. I'm Robert Kirabo Nyonyintono.
It's glory for Uganda for the first time in history.
Anything in sports, join me.
Wake up to Good Morning Uganda, weekdays on UBC.
Live from Nile Avenue in UBC Studios, this is Good Morning Uganda.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite shows.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning to you all our viewers, and thank you so much for once again waking with us here on UBC, and of course now being the last day of June. Now, of course, this also means that we have gone far into 2021. Who knew that would be here? The expectation would be that by this time in this year, would think that we wouldn't be talking about Corona, by the way, because the perception was that by 2021 March, this whole thing will be gone and we'll be back to our lives. Guess what? We are back to to square one. But nevertheless, we are almost also fighting out in this second one, as long as we do the things we're supposed to be doing. And again, want to remind you every day that perhaps you should be able to carry a mask on yourself everywhere you go. Secondly, make sure you do sanitize or wash your hands regularly, but also boost your immunity. Guys, boost your immunity with what you eat. This is the worst time for you to think of chips and chicken. And honestly speaking, not that I don't love it or what, but the worst time you want to think of chips, chicken. Reducing the cholesterol you put in your body, and of course increase on the things that you eat that are natural, like fruits, greens, and avoid a lot of fried food. You can do a lot of boiled food, and also work out your body. Take lots of water, lots of fluids, that your body will be hydrated. So those few things, at least you will stay alive, and your body will be able to resiliently fight this coronavirus. Even when you get the infection, know what to do. We'll be sharing with you a couple of things you can do again at home, and for some of you who have the symptoms, if you are not of course intensively ill with the virus. But more of that is what we'll be sharing, me and my colleagues this morning, Robert and Priscilla. And I will start with you, Robert. Good morning.
Good morning, Felix, and good morning to you, our lovely viewer that has woken up this morning to start your day with us. It is a cold morning. It's been raining, and in some parts of this country, really we know most of Kampala, where we have temporary stagnation. Along Mukwano on my way, I saw some vehicles could not move because the situation was really very hard. But whatever it is, we are here to ensure that despite being home, we inform you of what is happening locally, internationally, and we come with a message of hope. Yes, We've seen our colleagues, our family members, our loved ones succumb to COVID. But there is hope that when we perfect the soaps, we will surely fight the spread of this disease. And also the good thing is, day by day, science is coming up with new innovations, with new breakthroughs. Yesterday we saw how Ugandans, a number of people were excited when our very own supportive treatment was approved by National Drug Authority by a Ugandan. And of course, you know, there's so much that is happening in our labs as well.
Well, of course, that is one of the things we'll be talking about much later, but I also would want to engage my dearest Priscilla. Good morning.
You want to engage me?
Dearest.
Not the thing.
You want to engage me? No, I mean, if you want to engage me, it would come like with a ring or something.
In terms
like that.
of our conversation.
In terms of our conversation. I was like, the year month is ending in style for me.
With blessings.
With blessings, right?
I
So
know.
I've answered our daughter's prayers.
But were you also ready to receive?
My friend.
Why not?
Were you also ready to receive?
Why not? As he has said, surely, you know what the Bible says, he who finds, he who finds, may I be found, then someone else finds. So me, I don't have any problems.
You're lost to be found.
Well, it is nice to laugh. It's very medicinal to laugh in such a time as this. My name is Priscilla Nalwoga, and welcome to Good Morning Uganda, as we are crowning up the month of June and getting into a whole other cycle of a second half of the year 2021. Now, I know you have noticed in the last 24 to 48 hours, your phone has been having some sort of issues. You call someone and when they pick up, the call drops. Or you're trying to send mobile money and they're telling you you cannot actually do that right now. Or you've been trying to buy OTT and you had only one option of buy OTT for a day. You didn't have for a month. Well, guess what? 1st July is here and it's going to bring a lot of changes, especially in telecommunications. So look out for those, and that is why you're having a challenge with your network today and tomorrow. But things are going to be sorted out, do not worry. Nevertheless, Robert has talked about hope. And this morning, I'm delighted that on Good Morning Uganda, on our agenda, we're definitely going to edify on this conversation of hope, because it's the one thing that we can hold on for reassurance that you and me are going to make it through this COVID-19. Felix, you were talking about how if the expectation was that this year is a different year. COVID-19 in Uganda was swept away. Now we're supposed to be getting back into the new normal. Well, we're adapting to the normal of last year, but we can make it. We can make it.
We are making it.
Priscilla, something that you've just talked about that happened yesterday and was very interesting. Of course, we know FAST is coming with new ways in the telecommunication. OTT may become history. But yesterday I noticed it was around 4. I was in some area and everyone was on their phone. So I was asking, what is happening? It seems, how sure people are making these calls, only to understand that a certain network, people were making calls free of charge.
Oh, really?
I think it was a technical problem. I don't think it was a COVID.
Wow.
So until I asked, excuse me, a waitress, she's fidgeting with her phone. Everybody, what is happening? They told me, hey, on a certain network, even if you have 0 credit, you can call as long as you want. But I think it was later rectified. And even data, you could use and use. And
funny thing is that some of us never noticed those things.
Yeah, you see this how people were. You know, sometimes I try to be a little inquisitive of certain things that surround me. So I noticed, I'm like, how come?
So anyway,
RCC, but
speaking about hope that Priscilla did bring into play, I also want to inform our viewers out there that it has been also precedented that yesterday we did record the lowest numbers in terms of people who tested positive with COVID-19. Now, most recent past days you've been hearing 1,900, 1,000. I mean, for the last 2 weeks, I guess 2 or 3 weeks here. But yesterday we only recorded 300. Can you imagine how blessed we are? And this is what we're saying, that there is a lot we can hold on to in terms of hope. We can do this. We can fight coronavirus together. We must have the anger, the vigor, and the muscle to fight this virus. And we can definitely win, because we're already winning. Now COVID-X. Voila! Here we go. At least there are a lot of testimonies that are coming in terms of people who have been helped.
People like Ruben
whom the supportive treatment has been.
Testify.
Ruben, you leave my Ruben out of this thing. But there's something I want to ask you before we get into the papers and the stories of yesterday. And I'll start. Yesterday I started with Priscilla. I'll start with Robert.
Okay.
Robert, and remember, it's one thing. If you did you do like construction in English?
Construction in what?
Well, construction, sentence construction.
Hey, I was wondering, how do you get matafari?
No. In terms of language, in terms of grammar.
Right.
So there used to be this whole questions. Like, for example, if I said Priscilla has gone to the market to bring mangoes and pineapples, start the sentence with
composition.
Pineapple.
It's not called construction.
Well,
it's called composition.
Okay, what's the difference? Kirabo, would you
Priscilla is going to the market to bring mangoes.
To Nakasero market to buy mangoes and pineapples. Start the sentence with mangoes.
Teacher me.
Priscilla. Kirabo, you're sitting behind.
Mangoes are being bought from Nakasero market by
mangoes and
Priscilla.
pineapples.
Now it is mangoes and pineapples.
Let me repeat. Priscilla has gone to
question.
to Nakasero market to buy mangoes and pineapples, or pineapples and mangoes. Begin the sentence, mangoes.
Mangoes are being brought. Mangoes
But
and
I'm
pineapples
giving him
are being
katwa.
brought.
No.
Kirabo,
This
go ahead.
is cheating.
No, you don't worry. Kirabo.
Mangoes and pineapples are being brought from Nakasero market by Priscilla.
Being bought. Bought. Well, we shall start from there, and Priscilla will have our own question. But
Yeah.
of course, on top of all that, we want to share with you what did happen yesterday, and of course, in the last 24 hours in terms of news, and what we're able to broadcast with some of you who missed our bulletin.
So, Teacher Felix, does that mean that I get 2 points and then he gets 1 point? Because
2 points for what?
I am the one who gave him. He copycatted me.
Was there a script?
We were in an examination
Okay,
room.
let me take you through the hope of getting relief from government.
Oh yes, that's right.
Because we are talking about hope this morning. Yeah. And of course, the long awaited for information regarding relief is just underway. Now we know which categories will be benefiting from this. But these and more are some of the stories that happened yesterday in our bulletins. And let's begin by looking at a number of them. Where we see the CDF taking office. That's the Chief of Defense Forces, General Wilson Mbadi, assumed office yesterday following his appointment by the Commander-in-Chief of Defense Forces and the President of Uganda, General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, last week. While handing over the instruments of power at Mbuya Ministry of Defense headquarters in Kampala, the outgoing Chief of Forces, General David Muhoozi, urged the successor to be on the lookout of threats by terrorists. The handover ceremony started the incoming Chief of Defense Forces from a 3-star general to a full general, 4-star general, before he was handed over powers that comes with his office. The same incoming Chief of Defense Forces has been the deputy for the last 4 years, and at the same ceremony handed his office to the new Deputy CDF, Lieutenant General Peter Elelu, the former Commander Land Forces. The outgoing CDF, who has also been appointed State Minister for Internal Affairs, urged the successor to be on the lookout of threats by terrorists.
Parliament of Uganda has constituted a 6-member national task force to coordinate with government in responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. Unveiling the team at Parliament, Deputy Speaker Anita Among encouraged the public to embrace the vaccination and standard operating procedures against COVID-19. Among also clarified on Speaker Jacob Olanya's absence from the public arena. However, she claims the absence has nothing to do with what is in the public domain, but the agreed working calendar for Parliament. The new Parliamentary COVID-19 National Task Force will be chaired by Bugweri County Member of Parliament Abdu Kantuntu and deputized by Kazo County MP Dan Atwijukire. These, alongside other members, will be required to inquire into the report on government preparedness and response to the pandemic. In liaison with the regional parliamentary support teams, the role played by the private sector healthcare providers in COVID-19 management will be assessed. This will be complementary to other roles which Parliament has played before in response to COVID-19.
indeed our representatives, when they take on the task, we are waiting to see the outcome from them. Still in Parliament, Cabinet approved the proposal by the National COVID Task Force to transfer cash to vulnerable persons in urban areas who depend on daily earnings, which has been intercepted by the COVID-19 containment measures. A total amount of 100,000 Uganda shillings will be disbursed to each person. As the second wave of COVID-19 intensifies, President Yoweri Museveni on the 18th of June instituted new measures that included the 42 days of partial lockdown to curb the large gatherings and movement of persons and reduce further infections of the pandemic. Unlike last year during the first lockdown, when government distributed food to urban poor, majorly in Kampala metropolitan area, this time relief will be distributed in form of cash to the most affected individuals. The Minister for Information, Communication Technology and National Guidance, Dr. Chris Baryomunsi, led a team of the ministers on the task force to brief the country on how Cabinet intends to fulfill this through the Office of the Prime Minister and the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development.
Following weeks of sharp contradictions and a split in opinion over its efficiency, the National Drug Authority has notified Covidex, a local drug earlier touted as a cure for COVID-19, to rather be sold in drug outlets as supportive treatment in the management of viral infections. According to NDA, this drug made by Mbara University scientists, led by Professor Patrick Ogwang, has been approved for use based on initial assessment, published literature and safety studies conducted by the innovator. The National Drug Authority has cleared Covidex, a local drug, to be used as herbal medicine in the treatment and management of virus formed by assessment. And the NDA says they will continue to monitor the safety of Covidex drug through the post-market surveillance activities.
Interesting indeed, Priscilla. Supportive treatment, that is Covidex, supportive. I think that is the word there, but we also hope that Ugandans will not come up with something similar and just go to Nasa Road. So that is a challenge sometimes you have with products, homemade products.
Well, because when it comes to certifying this particular product or giving it that authenticity or the patent law, and Felix would be engaging us in this, where does this leave the part of patent law in order to protect this kind of treatment?
Well, of course, the guidance so far given by the National Drugs Authority is that let this be purchased in pharmaceuticals or hospitals. Now, that would mean that it's going to get off black market where people have been buying from people, what and all that. Now, of course, you don't expect to find fake in pharmacies and hospitals. So that's in aspects of patenting, that may take some time, or probably it has already been done. I wouldn't know, but I know that for us to avoid people who duplicate and make fake and what on the market, we have to purchase from pharmacies and hospitals. It would be much easier, because for them they have purchase processes they go through before they can actually have these drugs on shelves. Well, of course, apart from that, we will now take a look at our international stories, and where we'll be starting with the story of Canada, where dozens dead as heat wave shatters records. Dozens of people have died in Canada amid an unprecedented heat wave that has smashed temperature records. Now, police in British Columbia have responded to almost 70 sudden deaths since Monday, the majority of them involving elderly people. Now, they say the heat wave baking the region was a contributing factor. On Tuesday, Canada recorded its highest ever temperature for a third straight day. That was 49.5 degrees Celsius. Or 121 degrees Fahrenheit in Luton, British Columbia. Now, before this week, temperatures in Canada had been 45 degrees Celsius. Now, check in on your neighbors, check on your family members, check on seniors. You know, Canadian police came out to mention that it is right now it is a time where you must be sure that your colleagues are alive and not dead, because you wouldn't know. Most of the people have been dying in their own houses. Now, according to police, the heat is believed to have been a contributing factor to the deaths of at least 69 people in Vancouver suburb, in Burnaby there, and Surrey. Most were elderly, and of course many of them also young kids. Now, South Africa's third COVID wave could be the worst yet, and at least we're looking at it from his 10-bed private clinic in Western Johannesburg. Bayanda Gumenda, more used to treating renal diseases than COVID-19, but with the city's hospital full, patients lingering in the casualty ward for days, and ambulance stuck waiting in car parkings that is being charged. Now, 27-year-old chief neurology technologist also says he has been swamped with calls from patients desperate for oxygen and who cannot find it elsewhere. But with supply being limited, he is forced to prioritize. Now, it has taken a toll on me. It's very emotional watching people taking their last breath. Some people are gasping for air. There's literally nothing you can do about it. You cannot save everybody, he says. South Africa counts at least to close on the continent with at least 60,000 officially recorded fatalities variant. Fast detection in India, which is fast becoming the dominant strain. Now, Professor Salim Adol Karim, the world-leading epidemiologist, came out to say that Ministerial Advisory Committee believes that the mutation related in foreign, the same of this particular virus, is quite on a high. Now, still in Africa, Tigray forces regain ground, say ceasefire declaration was a joke. Rebel fighters in the Tigray region of Ethiopia are continuing to gain ground after recapturing the regional capital Mekelle from government forces. Now, the rebels have now entered the town of Shire, about 140 kilometers to the northwest. According to UN officials, Eritrean troops backing the Ethiopian army had earlier abandoned the city, and government has declared a ceasefire in 8 months conflict, but the rebels have vowed to drive their enemies from Tigray. Now, fighting between the Tigrayan People Liberation Front and the government forces has left thousands of people dead, and more than 2 million have also been displaced from their homes. Well, as people die of COVID-19, others die at the mercy and the barrel of the gun. We do need a lot of prayers. I must continuously say this, and mostly for African countries that have failed to understand that our only indifferences actually are similarities. But of course, that and more is what we'll be giving you in this post-production. Now, today being one of those days that people should be excited to get a salary. I don't know if it is still the normal. People still be excited about a salary in times of COVID. Will they get the salary? Some people have lost jobs. And for people who work in arcades, they are expected at the end of the month.
You talk about the salary earners. Of course, you do have to look into the directive that the president gave. And when he said that for corporate companies, or the ones that fall in that category, they should have 10% of its people, employees, working, and then the other 90% should be working from home. So surely that changes the salary scale. Then you ask yourself, what are the working terms and conditions for people that are working at home, and how are they adjusting? When you talk about the business people downtown, the arcaders, now they may find a way or two to get money, but they've been having the BBNAs, you know, those small groups where they actually collect money to better themselves and also get goods and the services that they sell here and there. But now they can't be able to meet their obligations, which is going to bring a gap in what they were initially achieving or saving to achieve, for that matter. So it's a setback for a lot of people.
And most so threatening for our brothers and sisters in these arcades is the rent. Because at the end of the day, the owner of the building wants rent. Despite the fact that you're not working, they will not look at that. And second are the loans. Because at the end of the day, the bank wants you to continue paying a loan, yet you're not earning. So these are all the complicities that have come along with COVID-19. But we just want to remind you that make it a point every morning to start your day with Alleluia Ginger Tea and Alleluia Turmeric. These drinks will boost your immune system. Like Felix said, what is important now is to ensure that you boost your immune system. Anything that you can come across that will boost that. And for us from here, we recommend Alleluia Ginger Tea and Alleluia Turmeric drink for you as you begin your day and go along with business.
And as some businesses are suffering, some have actually become lucrative in this period. For example, funeral service providers. Those are surely enjoying the season and milking from the season. I saw a report most recently of coffin makers and how they are earning a living out of the season, regardless of what the pandemic is doing to our communities. Yes.
They have also lost one of their own, Madame Regina Muchiu, who is the lady who first started the first funeral service company in Uganda, that is Uganda Funeral Services.
May her soul rest in peace. But continue with us on Good Morning Uganda as we step into the next hour on our social media platforms on UBC TV, that is Facebook, and on YouTube. You can just go back to rewind, replay, and go forward with our YouTube channel, which is UBC Television Uganda. Otherwise, get live updates as and when they come in from wherever they come in on our Twitter handle, which is UBC TV Uganda.
Now, there's this very powerful lady who has, I don't know, ministered in music. And I know when you hear her songs, you would relate. That is Sinachi, and we will be hearing a song from her in our song for the day. We hope this gives you the energy to wake up. And to wake up and what? You wake up to sleep.
Wake up to sleep,
No, but there's so much you can do. But let's go away.
Airtel Uganda has the best and most affordable rates when it comes to withdrawing and sending money. Withdraw money for as low as 330 shillings up to a maximum of 12,500 shillings. Sending money is just as affordable as ever. Absolutely unbeatable. Use Airtel Money on the most affordable network with the largest network of Airtel Money branches in Uganda. Dial *185# to get started. Airtel Money. Simple, secure, borderless.
COVID-19 chija kugwa. If we get vaccinated now, observe social distancing, wear a mask properly, sanitize or wash our hands with soap and water regularly. Together we can defeat this enemy.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Good morning it is, but we are here to bring a message of hope and also ensure that you're well informed of what is happening both locally and internationally. Now we are in a lockdown that is aimed at ensuring we curb the spread of COVID-19 where we know it works so much in crowded areas or places where there is congestion. After the president coming out and declaring 42 days of lockdown where many people were affected because they were not able to access their workplaces and be able to have something put on table, what happened is we saw the Prime Minister come up very clearly and say this time around the aid is going to be sent on mobile money. We will not have food be given, beans like was in the previous lockdown. Yesterday, Cabinet approved 100 Uganda shillings that will be given to various categories of people that are considered vulnerable or most vulnerable, because one would say everybody is vulnerable at this time, but most vulnerable categories that are going to be benefiting from this money. This is what we are going to be discussing this morning, and Priscilla will briefly take us through the categories of people that are going to be benefiting from this aid this time round.
Okay. So as we go through these categories, please find where you fall.
Unfortunately, we don't fall anymore.
Are you sure? I saw something here, something. Anyway, so the beneficiaries for this money is 100,000 shillings per individual that falls under this category are going to be going to bus/taxi drivers. You do have conductors, baggage carriers have been considered on this list, wheelbarrow pushers and totes. You do have traffic guides that have been added to this list, and loaders in taxi, bus parks, the stages. You do have major commercial centers such as Kirabo. Those have also been added to this list. Now there's another category that is interesting: barmen, DJs. You do have barmaids, waiters, bouncers. After 1.5 years have been considered finally. Bar workers, you have gym workers, you do have restaurant workers, food vendors in bus and taxi parks and also arcades. You do have artists, and this is in brackets musicians, comedians, producers and also promoters. Ideally also these have been under lockdown. They've tried to adapt to online, but the monetary returns are not visible. You do have border riders, special hire drivers. You do have Uber drivers. What's the difference between special hire and Uber drivers? It's the same concept. Saloon workers, massage parlor workers, and then you do have teachers and support staff in the private schools and teachers in government schools, not on government payroll.
So just when you mention teachers, you're just reminding me in the first lockdown, the president promised that was about 20 billion to teachers in private schools.
And to date, that has not been reflected onto individual accounts.
Please continue with category. That was just a reminder.
Yes, we do have car washers. Yeah, for a moment there, I felt like if I can just quickly have a day job car washing, I would be benefiting. Slum dwellers and ghetto residents. You do have street vendors, and then also you do have shoe shiners and cobblers, and also orphans and vulnerable children, or would be street children, would be falling under this category. But now you give children money, how are they going to use that money? Anyway, this is the category.
These are the categories.
Yes.
Well, Felix, we know relief cannot be for everybody, but we've also had, this is first a good gesture to government that yes,
from government,
it's looking at some vulnerable people and it's saying, you're the most affected, maybe. So let's find a way of helping. But let's look at this really mobile money and the categories that are going to receive. Well, last time we saw KC had come up with a task force, and they came up with a task force, and the Lord Mayor had recommended something over 200, calculated that if a person is to consume 6,000 per day, this time government has gone to 100,000.
Robert, this whole thing of relief is good, and that should be the starting point. It's a good gesture from government, as you did say. And I've been trying to listen to the categories my sister has been reading, and I'm thinking to myself, speaking about the categories, I find them as also a fallacy. If you want us to go and define the word being vulnerable, I think we must use the literal approach in terms of interpretation of documents or even wordings in this formative. One, who is a vulnerable person? Maybe you could help me, the two of you.
In this circumstance?
Generally, before we come to narrow it down to.
Vulnerability sometimes is relative to circumstances, Felix.
Well, if you want to use a general definition, it can be, because the word is an English word. Someone who's vulnerable is someone who is at that point in life cannot meet their most effectual needs. This could be in terms of social welfare, economic welfare, it can be political, it can be religious. They are vulnerable. Now, vulnerability means it places someone in a position of being in need. If you're talking about people in this country who are in need today, do you think they are covered or everyone is covered?
My answer would be to that not everyone is covered, and not everyone can be covered in terms of relief of this nature, given our economy and given how the situation is moving.
It's very unfortunate.
Prioritizing the most affected. I think this is what government is looking
Basing
at.
on what?
Basing on, when you look at this list, for example, when you talk about barmen, when the bars last operate, DJs, when they last work.
Do you know that government gave the Association of DJs a big amount of money? Are you aware? Do you know that government spent a lot, over 5 billion to promoters and artists? Do you know that?
Not all got.
It doesn't matter who told you all of them would get.
Maybe this would be more inclusive.
Robert, you see what I'm trying to bring out is that we need to be sober when we are discussing some of these things. And it is quite important. Because you see, we're looking at, now someone puts orphans and vulnerable children. Honestly, what category is that? Are we going to go and get statistics from NIRA of the parents who have died in this country? How do you put that to life, Robert? Orphans and vulnerable children. And these are the things that make me to question the parliament we have. We never see parliament coming out with something of concrete, resolute to save this country. In as much as cabinet passed that, but between just the three of us here, if we are to examine one category by one, You talked about teachers. Teachers were given 20 billion. Before we add them, you see, Kirabo, you can't live on handouts. We need to get a sustainable solution for the problems. We have been in lockdown. COVID came, it's coming to 2 years. You cannot tell me that today you want to give a barmaid 100,000 shillings. What if we go up to next year in February or something? Abba's going to, you know,
monthly, benefit or relief.
Why don't we get these young girls or women, and because if you want to give, if you're going to give, let's say like 2,000, 3,000 women, can't we do something more formidable?
What would be some of your proposals?
I have told you time and again, everyone in this country is vulnerable. People are dying in fences you call rich people because they work in Chikubo. They work in Chikubo. They have loans. You talked about loans at the starting of this show. Everyone is vulnerable, Kirabo. Away from you, me and Priscilla, who wake up every day and come here, and we can still earn a salary from the corporation. Maybe not many are like us. Only in a population of 45 million,
the
there are only 3 of us who can sit on this
category by category, as you've said. You've talked about the people in Chikubo, and there may not be, many of them may not be beneficiaries in one way or another in this category. However, you've talked about the fact that they are having loans or pressurized with now, which causes them to be vulnerable. So the expectation would be that government would have to categorize in terms of sector by sector on how to help send relief or aid. And in terms of business, it would be talk to the banks and cause them to hold off, or reduce the interest on the loans, or extend the period for loans. You would be talking about them, engaging with the Kasita or the different groups that man business centers or businessmen and women in all over Uganda, to be able to talk to the owners of the buildings, to tell them, people, for these 42 days, no one should be paying rent, because they are human, we are human. What makes them demand for their money that us, we're not working?
So you're looking at this approach of sector by sector. Look at what is their most critical need, and address that as government.
Robert, you will need food as a barmaid. I don't need food as a lawyer. Maybe that's not my need. Maybe where I have my chambers, the building, as she's saying, I'm paying rent for something that I'm not working for. I'm a person in Chikubo. Money is not necessarily partial. But let us look at a wholesome approach. Let me tell you, one of the worst things, and this is going to be precedented, and you'll come here and tell me, if government makes a mistake and starts giving out this money, you're going to hear the most issues of scandals. People's numbers will get more than 30 times, some people, others will not get. And then you'll see that after 1 week or 3 weeks, you're going to see all over the news.
Even when you put it from that angle, I feel like government is putting themselves on unnecessary pressure to send this money. Because, Kirabo, how many people do you know actually have numbers registered in their names? National IDs became a problem. People have been going to NIRA and NITA.
I know people who have
all the time,
their numbers registered in multiple years.
They've been told come back over and over again. So they don't have a national identity card to get a number or to verify their number. So they will go to Kirabo. Oh, my friend Kirabo, please help me register my number in your names. But then my name, Priscilla, is a barmaid and she's supposed to be a beneficiary. Now, the number that she has is registered under Kirabo. Do you see how I disqualify from the list? Do you see how that money is then bounced back to government, and then it sits there and it's going to do what?
But also, Priscilla and Felix, like Felix asked for the definition of vulnerable, I want also us to get the gist of the word relief. Because this money that government is sending to people, what is the core purpose of it? Is it to see them get what to put on table? Because when a person receives money, now it is upon them to decide on what to use it. 100,000 is not so little, but it's relatively not so much. So I look at a person who receives 100,000 on their mobile phone. Maybe government, like most relief usually comes in terms of food. When you look at World Food Program, when you look at disaster strikes, people, all they need is shelter and food. And many Ugandans have been saying that if I live today, what am I feeding my family? Is this money going to address the core issue of, if it is food, to see these people through? Because one of the areas they talked about is why relief the first foods were going to people in urban areas. They don't have gardens. It's hard for them to find what to put on the table. So will this relief serve the purpose? I want to get it beginning with you, Priscilla. Do you think giving people money would serve the purpose in case of feeding, and if it was to fight hunger and people starving at this particular time?
Well, relief is relief. The giver gives, and then whoever the beneficiary decides what they do with that money. And you don't have an arm because there won't be any accountability. They won't be asking you, bring an accountability of how you used the money. So that is why it's relief. You're given, and then you attend to your most dire need in that time or that season. COVID-19 is here. But yes, some it would be health, some would be social, some could be taking care of the basic needs of the home. We cannot have a discussion about that, Robert. But you get to look at, even if they receive that money, how long is it going before they will be doing this?
Depending on what they have
we're going to
chosen as a priority.
We're going to make these groups, by the way, become street beggars. Because the expectation is that since government has now considered us as vulnerable, we want more. If the president comes out after 42 days and he does a national address on COVID-19 and he says we're going for another 42 days, what is the office of the prime minister going to do? Are they going to go back to this? You know who's collecting this money? Whose money this is, by the way? This is your money. This is Ugandan taxpayers' money that is being spent like this. My desire would have been that whatever solutions, yes, I understand in the first lockdown, it was rapid response. It was disaster response. And you had to do something quick and fast. And they did the posho, the beans distribution, well and good. But now we need to move away as a government, as the leadership over this country. We need to move away from rapid response or emergency response, and we need to move to planned response. Because the truth is, like HIV is still here, COVID-19 is still going to be here for a very long time. And if we don't start to look at it from that spectrum of framework and start to plan out how we can then move and push forward as a country, economically, socially, and in any other way, health sector, whatever sector, how it can actually continue to move and push forward vis-a-vis or alongside COVID-19, we are going to be in big trouble. You look at the 53 billion that they're spending on this relief. It's going to be covering 530,000 Ugandans. That is not even 10%. It's not even 5% of the population of Uganda.
Which
if we are going by 45 million Ugandans, it would be that it should be covering 4.5 million as 10%. Now that would be, you know, you'd be saying that, okay, yeah, it's a considerable relief and a couple of Ugandans have benefited. Bring it back to vaccination. It's no different from vaccination. Bringing in 175 doses, then another 175 doses will come in September. It's the same thing. It's not benefiting.
Well, there's so much that can be said about the relief that is going to come your way if you're among those categories. We only question how transparent the process is going to be. This is what Ugandans are now looking at. Is it going to be more transparent so that now we know that many are going to get this aid? But also, how do we come up with something that is sustainable? Relief is good, but it cannot be sustainable for a longer period. Yet we know COVID could be around here with us for more time until we know that a good number of population has been vaccinated and we can go back to normal, because they will fight that is severe illness and death. But as for now, we must look at something that is really sustainable. We thank God for, and we thank government for this move. However, we hope it will be transparent and benefit the intended beneficiaries. When we return, Priscilla will be taking us through traffic updates. I and Felix will be doing a press review, and later we'll look at what is happening in weather and nature. Good morning.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios, this is Good Morning Uganda.
What does it mean to be closer together? It's taking the last bus home for a surprise visit. Closer together is strangers finding a connection. It's bringing home something much more than a box. It's the warmth of home, or the beginning of something new. There's magic in sharing the things that we love.
because it's those things that bring us close together.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite shows.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
If we get vaccinated now, observe social distancing, wear a mask properly, sanitize or wash our hands with soap. Together we can defeat this enemy.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Thank you so much for keeping it on UBC TV, where we make it a point that we update you with what is happening. Also ensure that we break that quietness, low mood, and we usher you into a bright morning. So always make it a date to start your day with us here on Good Morning Uganda from 6:30 till the hour of 9. It's time we look at what is happening in the print media. I'm holding the New Vision, and a very big headline there on the front page: COVIDx cleared for treatment. But something important to note: to work as supportive treatment for COVID-19. To work as supportive treatment for COVID-19. Still, we look at lockdown, cash relief handouts for next week. Okay, expectations a bit higher, more hope at such a time. Then looking out, that is for the education column there, senior 2 English and senior 4 biology and chemistry are in the paper today. Also look at, that is the handover. Here we see General Muhozi hands over to General Mbadi. That is the new CDF and the outgoing CDF there. There's a picture as they were, one was handing over office, that is at Mbuya, Ministry of Defense headquarters. And we also still look at the New Vision, the pandemic, that is coronavirus, death overwhelming city mortuary. Felix with the Daily Monitor.
Of course, our registration for COVID-19 kicks off today, and the Daily Monitor also brings you the breakdown of this money and what you could use it for. Now, some of the beneficiaries and the categories are also in the papers, but also the other stories where we'll be looking at beating COVID series. I spread COVID to my children, and how was I able to come over the same. Now, Express FC named league champion, and of course, treating COVID, why government cleared the COVIDx drug. But of course, also what you can do at homes, vertical gardens, the future of farming. Now, inside the papers, in the other news, alleged Kawesi killer shot Katumba. Police comes out to say Jacob Zuma, former president, sentenced for 15 months in prison for contempt of court. Now, from the archives, a photo of General Eddie Tumwine and Major Dick Bujingo. That is in 1999, but also today in history, Nabagedeka released from jail. That is on 30th June 1966. And in history again, Hitler kills members of the Nazi party.
In the New Vision, we begin with, that is on the second page, COVID-19 statistics. As of today, new confirmed cases 345. We look at new death, that is 33 people have succumbed to COVID, and total death so far Uganda, it is 989. Please perfect the SOPs, do not be part of these statistics, and you know how best to avoid that. Still, we look at symptoms you can look at and know really you need treatment. That is fever, cough, shortness in breath, sore throat, and headache. So these symptoms, please, you can go and have a test or begin that home-based treatment. We look at Know Your Member of Parliament. Today the New Vision has brought, that is Nuwa Musa MP Koboko North Constituency. Today in history, it was on this very date, the 30th of June, but the year 2002, when local fans went wild. That is, Kampala was exploded into great wave of joy as Brazil beat Germany. And still today in history, Hitler orders, that is the killing of Nazis, and this was so many lost their lives. Yes, Nkunda.
Now in Sports Express champions, and we see here that the Red Eagles winners of 2020-2021, that is Super League season URA, to represent Uganda in CAF Confederation Cup. And most league titles, we see SCV at least 16 times, KCCA 13, Express 7, Vipers and URA have taken the trophy 4 times. Now we're also looking at the champs backstory for Mbappe to bounce back after France exit, and Spain Morata on epic win, talks about family support. Now George 41 helps Clippers stave off exit Phoenix, and Gazella Afrobasket dream crushed by financial hiccups.
In the New Vision Sport, we wanted it more. That is Numba, that is the Uganda star. Numba walked away with the Golden Shot Award. Still, we look at Copa America updates, what is happening there, and also same old friendship between UWBF and China. That is more regarding sports, but don't forget, Ruben, welcome, and we'll be giving you more updates in the world of sports, and of course more. But let's look at what is in the Daily Nation this morning.
And of course, Daily Nation, it's jail for Zuma, and TSC deal rejected, offers excluded, and pay rise to comply with SCR 2-year salary freeze. Now the BBI fight back, and we look at that the High Court judge said president does not have mandate to initiate review through popular vote. Now of course there we see a legal battle in Nairobi, Kenya, ahead of the elections. Of course, a couple of highlights in what was lost in this particular legal battle, but also Uhuru 10 million to get jabs by Christmas. Wow, what a milestone for Kenya there. The expectation is that this will help reduce on the COVID-19 prevalence in this country. Well, of course, that and much of the same, you will be able to get it when you buy yourself a copy of these papers, the Daily, the New Vision, and of course the Daily Nation. But far from that, we also would want the traffic lady to let us know, how do you get yourself wherever she's taking us? Good morning, Priscilla, once again. And why are you taking us?
Well, there's not much where to go because we are under 42 days of lockdown. We have not so many places to go to. And yesterday, Uganda police actually did a very interesting raid on the road the entire day. There were roadblocks on some of the major roads that were taking out traffic and bringing in a lot of traffic. And most especially, Chira Road was one of the juicy ones. They had the pitch that is just right behind Chira Road police station, having a lot of cars parked in that pitch because of the terms and conditions that are being applied. And one of the terms and conditions in this lockdown is that your car must be registered by the Ministry of Transport and Works. You have to make sure that your car that you're driving is on the list of the cars that should be on the road. And then the driver of the car should also be the person that was registered initially to that car, to drive that car. Now, I saw that incident. One of the police officers did stop a car. It was registered, it was allowed to be on the road, but the person who was driving it was not the registered driver originally. Now that begs the question, if the driver gets COVID-19 or disease or whatever happens and they have to be off duty, are you not going to allow the car to carry the passengers who actually have identification that requires them to be using that car? So lots of questions were raised, and I hope that this is cleared out sooner or later. We also had the RCC of Nakawa coming through and making statements that were quite threatening, but I hope that that can be cleared out in terms of curfew and how essential workers are given a time frame. Now imagine if your essential work actually comes in the time frame of 9 a.m. to 3 or 4 p.m. and that is when you should be moving. If you're phone moving, apparently you'll get on the wrong side of the law. So a lot of questions that have been raised in that direction, and I hope we get clarity about that sooner than later. But the journey does continue and the 42 days are still here. We have tried, we have got some few days, but until the 31st of July, this is the normal that we are going through. Now, speaking of the normal, we just want to have a sneak peek onto one of the routes that actually are within the central business area of Kampala and see if there's anything like traffic. We only do have traffic indicators that do show up on the junction between Entebbe Road and Kampala Ginger Road, and that is where you see some traffic. We get to see traffic also entering into the central business area, and that is around Equity Bank, where you do have Mukwano Center, shopping mall and the likes, and those areas are temporarily closed because of some construction that is going on there. You do have other interactions and traffics that are appearing somewhere in between there. The connector on Entebbe Road onto Queensway is also having some bit of vehicles that are moving. Of course, we know that you do have flyover, the Kampala flyover construction that is taking place today continues, and just to remind you that there are diversionary routes, and so they do have those red blocks that are giving you the diversionary route that has been created by Ministry of Works, working on this UNRA, working on this particular route. So you do have Zambia route, this diversion that brings in traffic from Zambia, connecting it to Entebbe Road, that has been closed off for now until further instructions. So that diversionary route has been readjusted, and so you must be careful when you're driving and find out what those readjustments are in accordance. Also, the one that connects back to Katwe has also been blocked off, and there's been another route that has been created, but because there's not much traffic, I'm pretty sure that you can be able to make the adjustments as and when in accordance. Now, we do have some red zones that are appearing in Zambia, and I would think that there are roadblocks that are causing these red zones onto Zambia Mukwano route. It could be traffic lights, but around here it's majorly a roadblock that could be causing around Zambia sharing. There could be a roadblock there. Then we move away from Zambia and trying to get into the rest of Kabalagala. You get to see that the rest of Kabalagala is a clear route. Gaba Road, there's no traffic up until you get to the trading center, which is Kabalagala. That is when you start to see some vehicles appearing on the route, and then the route continues. People are trying to use Mbogo Road to get onto probably Mukwano Road or Namuwongo or the likes. The rest of Gaba Road does have some traffic, and this traffic is for people that are actually going to Gaba Road. There's no traffic of people trying to get into the heart of the city. So in short, I suppose people are being responsive to the directives, and the raid that happened yesterday really put people back into their places. Make sure that you have a reasonable purpose as to why you're on the road. Otherwise, terms and conditions are going to apply, and you're going to have to be fined a hefty amount of money, which kind of money you can't afford to spend. Actually, if you spend it as a man, you're going to go back home and your wife is going to be disappointed in you, which is going to cause you stress, and that stress is going to amount to hopelessness. You're going to feel less of a man. That's not the kind of attitude that we want to have in our communities. Now imagine if there's so many of us that have to go through such attitudes. It's going to be sacking all over, in the house, in the community, in the neighborhood, and then the rest of Uganda. Now, speaking of which, this morning on Good Morning Uganda, on agenda, we do have Irene Ocho, and she's going to be talking to us about the role of hope in fighting against COVID-19. Many of you have had a first-hand experience or second-hand experience of people may not actually be passing away because of COVID-19. If anything, because of hopelessness and despair and so much tension inside their spirits, they are losing their lives, yet they could could have won the battle nevertheless. So we want to stir up hope yet again into you so that you can then spread it out to those that are surrounding you on Good Morning Uganda. Later on, Ruben Pima Chibirango is going to be coming through and talking about sports. And when he talks about sports, I can't wait to hear what he's going to be saying about what FUFA came out and declared Express FC as the champions for the season 2020-2021. Same incidents we saw last year. Are we going to be having this continuous in the sports arena locally? Well, we're yet to find out. Did the decisions, the solutions that were suggested by sports fraternity, were they not acceptable? Well, he's going to come and explain to us. But also England, after 55 years, actually leapfrogging into the quarters is something interesting to note on the Euros scene 2020. But away from that, we do have Molen Kenyana joining us. Good morning to you, Molen. All right, so Molen Kenyana is going to be talking to us about weather and climate. Now, speaking of climate, Felix gave us a report that came through from Canada. People are dying. Actually, 70 people have been reported dead in the last 24 hours because of the heat wave that has come through Canada and courtesy of the Pacific in the USA. And you're going to have a lot more people suffering because of this heat wave, especially the elderly. Now, the heat wave does affect the gases in the air and does affect what you breathe in, and then it causes death, the eventuality of it. Now, Molen has more of these details, and she's also going to be giving us the weather update. Good morning.
Yes, good morning to you, everyone. It is really a cold day here in Uganda. Most areas around Lake Victoria did start off with a few rains. We had some here in Wakiso and parts of Kampala as well, and Tebe, with most areas receiving mostly scattered showers. Now, we are seeing reports about the raging heat wave that is over northwestern USA and also for western Canada. And these areas are actually accustomed to cold weather. Now, seeing that actually most cities are breaking records in terms of rising temperatures is something very concerning. Now, reports coming through are showing really raging numbers. For 3 straight days, we have had record-breaking numbers in terms of temperatures. On Monday, we did have areas like Seattle, and Seattle reached 40. Then we also had Portland going up to 44.4. And this morning, the reports that are coming through, I also talked with my colleague Claire from Canada, and she was also giving us the new recent record set from Canada, and that is Layton at 49.5 degrees Celsius. Now, the first number that we had on Monday, that was 45, and that was already huge enough, breaking records. So now we also saw 49.2 again yesterday, and now it's set at 49.5. That is Lighton there. That is also showing us much of the record-breaking numbers. Now, we haven't had this in a while, and scientists are already linking this event to climate change. There has been a lot of extremes across this area. And what is this? How is it likely to affect the place, especially when we talk about Layton? This is known, this is in British Columbia, known as the home of Rockies and Glaciers National Park. So that means we are going to see glaciers melt. We are going to see snow melt over this area due to the extreme heat that is over this place. And what happens if these glaciers melt and snow? We are going to be looking at river flooding, and that could result into landslides. Already, most areas within the western Canada are under alert for likelihood of these events happening. That is, like I said, river flooding and landslides resulting into, it's known to have mostly these glaciers. And also that could be really dangerous. There are already red alerts coming in across northwestern USA and also for western Canada, and also likelihood of thunderstorms, because now as the heat goes through, as we do expect more temperatures actually to go up, then we look at the general warming across the area, and that could be resulting into extreme wildfires and also for thunderstorms and likelihood of river flooding. But away from that, from the heat wave in Canada, we are seeing mostly areas starting to most places starting to form up demonstrations against the climate situation. We did see yesterday a group going up to Capitol in the USA, Washington, trying to demonstrate about banning of fossil fuels. Now, these are climate action groups that organized a demonstration in the US, Washington, trying to ask for climate action in terms of cutting of fossil fuels. Now, it is these groups that actually come to awaken our policymakers. This is happening in the US, but this is something that also we've seen happen across the world, especially with campaigns like Fridays for the Future and youth groups actually coming up to form up demonstrations that are aimed at alerting policymakers, alerting the public that there is need to actually look at climate change. And most of them are advocating for the world to declare climate change right now as an emergency, a world emergency, and we shall see more of those. And also we saw a report yesterday that came in showing that now the research that is on the desk is showing that there are more lawsuits that are going to be coming up. Now that is looking at fossil fuels especially. That is when we look at the demonstration that happened yesterday in terms of groups coming up to cut fossil fuels in the US. Still, I want to link this to what happened recently in Netherlands. Now, the report is showing that so far, over 1,500 climate-related lawsuits have been, across the world, have been put to the eyes of the law to look into. Now, the recent one is the Shell, the one that was put against Shell in Netherlands, that was brought before the civil court in Netherlands, showing how Shell has been polluting in terms of carbon dioxide emissions. Now, this was actually a good thing. We saw the government, the Netherlands court, coming up, and they gave Shell up to 2030. They need a report by 2030 that shows that Shell will be cutting its emissions, carbon dioxide emissions, by 45% compared to the levels that they had in 2019. Now, that means that they have to cut, first of all, the use of oil and also gas. And this is also aimed in reducing actually use of fossil fuels across the world. So Shell is not just in the Netherlands, it is across everywhere. And even here in Uganda, we do use Shell. So if this is affected, like the court in Netherlands has actually put it, then we'll look at reduction in carbon dioxide emissions across the world, not just in the Netherlands. Well, I want to come back here home today. We've started off with mostly that rainy condition, like I mentioned, and from what I could look at in the satellite, we did have more rains coming through, especially from Midwestern Uganda and also across the Northwest and West Nile, especially. But as we will be looking into our forecast, starting off with Eastern Lake Victoria Basin, that is Tororo, still expected to have those thunder showers at temperatures going up to 25, and that will be across Eastern Lake Victoria Basin. That is where we have Iganga as well, Jinja. And looking at the central part of Lake Victoria, that is for Kampala, that is where we have Mukono, Mpigi, that is where we have Kayunga, Entebbe. We are already seeing those rains across several places, but those are expected to continue throughout the morning, and temperatures will be at 24 degrees, quite cold even for now. Then the western parts of Lake Victoria, that is where we have Rakai, that is where we have Rengo, Masaka, still expected to continue with those thunder showers, but mostly over a few areas areas, they are isolated, and temperatures still at 24 degrees centigrade. Now for western parts of Central, that is where we have Mityana, we have Chivoga, Mubende in that category. We do expect just a few showers. Those will be across a few areas. Temperatures quite warming up compared to what we have for Lake Victoria Basin Central. So that will be at 26 degrees Celsius. And eastern parts of Central, Nakasongola, Ruero, that's where we have Nakaseke as well. We do expect the showers to develop also throughout this morning, and temperatures will be at 26 degrees centigrade. And that is actually where we also have warmlands in southwestern Uganda, that is Ibanda, Mbarara. We do expect to have light showers isolated over a few places, and also quite cold at 25. And that is where we have Bushenyi as well. West Nile already starting off with those rains, and more clouds are developing. That is where we have Nebi, Yumbe, Rua, as well as Zombo. We do expect rain, and those will be much more. So they will be scattered at least over 50% of the area. Temperatures going up to 26 degrees centigrade. Now, Central North, that is where we have Gulu, we have Padel, we have Kitgum, and Amuru, Ajumani. We do expect to have thunder rain, and temperatures will be going up to 25 degrees centigrade. Quite a cold morning actually over there compared to usually what the normal mornings are if we don't have rains. Now for northern Choga, that is where we have Lira, we have Molata there. With 2K, we do expect to have just some light rains isolated over a few areas, and temperatures will be reaching 26 degrees centigrade. That is where we have Oyam and Dokolo over that in that category. Now Midwestern already starting to develop with more clouds. That is where we have Hoima, we have Budisa, we have Kigandongo in that category, also likely to start with just a few rains, but those will be as the day goes on. We do have temperatures reaching up to 26 for this morning. And then Renzori, also that is the southern part of Midwestern, that is where we have Ndoroko, we have Kabarole, expected to have light rains at 24, quite a cold morning for you over there. Then we see sunny intervals, mostly a mix of clouds and sunshine, much sunshine for Kasese, Wera, and that will be throughout the entire morning with quite a warm morning over there for southern Rwenzori. Now also for Kigezi Highlands, that is where we have Kabale, that is where we have Kanungu. We are expecting to also start off with a mix of clouds and sunshine, quite cold for 23 degrees centigrade. Now this area is known to have comparably very cold temperatures to the rest of the country. And that is where we have Kabale actually. Now Eastern Choga, we see Soroti, Katakwi, also likely to have those light rains, but temperatures will be at 24, quite cold. Northeastern Uganda, and that is the Karamoja region, where we have Kotido, where we have Napak, we have Kabong in that category, likely to start off the day with scattered showers, but those will be over a few areas, just isolated, and they will be clearing as the day goes on. The temperatures will be at just a pleasant 25 degrees centigrade. Now looking at Mount Elgon Highlands, that is where we have Mbale, we have Bududa in that category. We have Kapchora, Buko, that is also expected to start off with very pleasant day at sunny intervals, just a mix of clouds and sunshine, and also quite cold at 24 degrees. And looking at the eastern lowlands, that is where we have Palisa, we have Budaka, also expected to have mostly isolated showers and quite a cold morning as well. That is 25 degrees centigrade. Now, most areas in the country will be seeing mostly a cold morning, it looks like, throughout the entire country. We do expect those temperatures to pick up as the day goes on, and most areas will actually be looking at more rains developing, most especially to the Midwestern part of the country and the Lake Victoria Basin. We are likely to have those rains come through again in the afternoon. But for now, it is mostly a very cold morning, and also with those light and scattered showers expected across several places. Now, my name is Molin Kenyana. I will be leaving you with the team. Good Morning Uganda agenda is coming up, and later Ruben will also come through to look at the world of sports. We'll be wishing you a good morning. You can continue with our conversations on social media, and also we are streaming live on YouTube. That is UBC Television Uganda. Have a good morning.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.
What does it mean to be closer together? It's taking the last bus home for a surprise visit.